She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave.
All right, where do we even begin? I'm sure you heard about the FBI arresting a judge in Wisconsin for obstruction. However, there's no other way to say it, but Democrats are very upset about it. In fact, they are comparing the event to something that Germany would do in World War II. We will dig into all of this, but first, let us see what actually happened. Here's what Pam Bondi has to say, and again, remember, Democrats are mad at this?
So rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave. While a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
All right, let us start with the least shocking part of this story. Here's what Senator Chris Van Hollen has to say. And remember, this is the senator from Maryland who went down to El Salvador to try and free Mr. Kilmar Obrego, a non-American citizen. This is what fascism looks like, he writes. Attorney General Bondi threatening judges she claims are not cooperating with Trump immigration policies and saying, "We will come after you and we will prosecute you. We will find you." That is right. That is a U.S. senator who is mad at the attorney general for wanting to prosecute judges who do something illegal. Let's continue.
This indictment is strong on its face. They have numerous witnesses. They have a lot of facts that will support this prosecution. But to quote David, yeah, this is a messaging day. And the message here is treating this judge like she just committed some sort of a violent crime, which she didn't, and publicly humiliating her. That is the message to the rest of local judges, local sheriffs, local officials who may feel uncomfortable now being on the pointy edge of the government's immigration efforts. This is an effort at intimidation. There's a clear message being sent by the administration here today. I'm just not so sure it's a good one.
Now, don't worry, I already know what you're all thinking. Hold on, why is that illegal immigrant actually in that courtroom? Well, here's your answer.
I hear these people chanting, "No justice, no peace." Let's not forget, this person, Mr. Ruiz, committed 2 crimes. He entered the United States illegally. Well, I don't know about the second crime. He's in court there today for domestic violence charge, okay? So it's not like he's there because he's an upstanding citizen. Somebody brought charges against the guy to show up in court for allegedly domestic, hitting somebody in some circumstance. So 2 strikes against the guy to begin with. The judge in this case knows what's going on, sees the ICE officials in the back. To Ellie's point, makes the conscious decision: I'm going to break the law.
Do judges act in ways that are inappropriate sometimes? Yes, that is why there are judicial disciplinary panels in place for someone to make a complaint and have that board investigate whether or not some sort of disciplinary action is warranted in this case. So even if we accept everything that government alleges to be true, I do not accept them all to be true. We haven't gotten all the facts fully yet. That would have been the appropriate way to do it. But by sending in someone to arrest her in her courtroom is a violation of the separation of the branches. It's the executive trying to muscle the judiciary to bend to its will. It's dangerous, it's autocratic, and it's just not how things are to be done. The main purpose here, of course, is to intimidate the judiciary so that they do not get in the way of Donald Trump's policies, however lawful or constitutional they may or may not be.
Okay, here's where things get complicated. A lot of people are confused as to why ICE agents are not just waiting for illegal immigrants to be fully prosecuted. You're seeing more and more ICE agents are just showing up to the courtrooms and grabbing the illegal immigrants and then deporting them from there. Well, we have to remember, the original plan for ICE has always been, we're going to go into the prison systems and we're going to find the illegal immigrants we know are there, and then from there we will deport them. However, there are prison systems, there are governments that are not allowing for ICE to even go into the prison systems, thus ICE is just having to go straight to the courtrooms and deporting illegal immigrants from there.
Have taken the extraordinary step to arrest a judge for allegedly obstructing an immigration arrest. Let's get right to NBC's Gary Grumbach, who has been trying to work on getting this reporting for us. What do we know?
So what we know right now is that over the past several days and weeks, we've seen videos of people being arrested at courthouses by Department of Homeland Security officials when they show up for hearings to adjudicate their immigration status. And that is something we've seen over and over again over the past several weeks. Now, veteran circuit court judge up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, her name is Hannah Dugan. She's now being accused of trying to help out an undocumented immigrant avoid arrest. And I want to read to you FBI Director Kash Patel's tweet. He says in part, quote, "Just now, the FBI arrested Judge Hannah Dugan out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin on charges of obstruction after evidence of Judge Dugan obstructing an immigration arrest operation last week." He says, going on, saying, "We believe Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, Eduardo Flores-Ruiz, allowing the subject, who they call an illegal alien, to evade arrest." Now, they say that this individual was eventually arrested by DHS officials. This is something that is just developing on it, and we have not yet seen any court documents in this case, but we are awaiting further news on this topic.
Now, by the way, just in case you are unaware, the FBI is allowed to arrest a judge. For some reason, the entirety of the tone for people talking about this who are not happy with the FBI, they are acting as if a judge can never be arrested. However, judges are allowed to be arrested, by the way.
You have the right to get an arrest warrant, and you have the right to get a summons. And that they got an arrest warrant for a judge shows that they wanted to make this a spectacle. Last point I want to make is I presented to a grand jury and indicted a state prosecutor. I indicted a prosecutor. And I got a summons because I didn't want to make a spectacle. They made a spectacle of this case.
Well, they announced it on X as well, and then deleted it, but announced it on X.
Why wouldn't you want to make a spectacle of it? I mean, the fact of the matter is, there are liberal Democrat elected officials, not all judges, some are mayors and others, all over this country who have said repeatedly since Donald Trump became the president that they would like to obstruct his principles and his program when it comes to deporting illegal immigrants. Here you have this person. If these facts are proven true, obviously that's exactly what she was trying to do here. Why wouldn't you want to make...
Let me respond to that.
Why? Because...
You asked me a question, let me respond.
Well, let me tell you my view. The spectacle is important because a message has to be sent to everybody else. We're not going to put up... You've been elected by people to uphold the law, and some of the laws that have been most flagrantly violated in this country are immigration laws. You've got to get on board with upholding all the laws, not just the ones you like.
Let me respond, Scott.
Here's the reason.
Okay, Kash Patel is head of the FBI.
You said you had to...
It's an embarrassment.
Let me just respond to something
you
said,
go ahead.
Which is that you said, well, you got to worry about the impact on the community.
Yes.
The president and the Justice Department and his people have to worry about the impact of illegal immigration on the country because nobody's been worried about that for years. And the reason this is important is because this is one of Donald Trump's biggest criminal justice priorities. And frankly, it's one of the American people's biggest priorities to control this. And you know well, there are people all over towns, all over this country who have been working overtime to try to stop him from executing on this agenda. If she turns out to be one of them, a spectacle is warranted so other people will stop doing it.
I appreciate, Scott, you saying if she turns out to be one of them, because I
think
it is very much something that we will see what happens in this case. But
that FBI is politicizing this situation to make an example of her and others across the country who oppose these attacks on the judicial system and our nation's immigration laws. Now, let's look no further than FBI Director Kash Patel, who issued a public statement online, which he quickly deleted, making unsubstantiated claims about Judge Dugan's case before charges were officially filed and she could have her moment in court. That FBI...
You know, Madam Attorney General, great to have you here, and thanks for coming back on America Report. So we remember these words of Tom Homan, the border czar. This was March 17th, and his message on these judges who apparently are trying to get in the way of this administration's efforts. Listen.
I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming.
So when you see these judges trying to obstruct your efforts to make this country safer, what is your message to them?
We are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. I found out about this the day it happened. We could not believe, actually, that a judge really did that. We looked into the facts in great depth. That's her picture up on the screen, Hannah Dugan, who is now in custody. You cannot obstruct a criminal case, and really, shame on her. It was a domestic violence case of all cases, and she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime.
Throughout the country where judges have been involved in some of these ICE cases. Just yesterday, the Suffolk County District Attorney in Boston, a democratically elected district attorney, issued a report chastising the judge that was involved in an immigration case there, saying the judge acted improperly after the judge accused ICE and prosecutors there of basically colluding together to get somebody who was about to face trial. A jury had just been impaneled to be removed by ICE. The district attorney's office did an investigation into that and actually rebuked what the judge said. So there's definitely some pushback in law enforcement circles. And one of the things that the Suffolk County District Attorney pointed to there, which may or may not be relevant in the Milwaukee case, in this judge that was just arrested and the judge that we've been speaking about, is this idea of the supremacy clause. Basically, ICE has the authority, because they're a federal agency, to conduct these arrests, whether or not it's in a local courtroom or not. And there have been different steps and different things have been done over the years with respect to some of these arrests. And there's been a number of cases that have gone through this even all prior to this current Trump administration. So it's definitely an issue that I think everybody thought would reach a particular point. It appears that it has this morning in the case of this Milwaukee judge. We'll just have to see what charges are ultimately brought once that docket becomes unsealed.
All right, and of course the governor of Illinois, who wants to economically sanction El Salvador, is pretty upset about this as well. Now, if you are still watching this video, I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys for being here. Leave your comments and opinions down below if you are still watching. I love to read what you guys have to say about these particular situations. Thank you for everything. We'll see you all later, and God bless.